But this is insane. We are in an insane, and he's building the biggest AI company in the world, right? He's got a $6 billion Series B. We don't know what's coming down the road, but the way that you become anti-fragile is to have a framework to fall back on that allows you to plan and adapt and strategize based on what's coming, no matter what it is. And I was saying, okay, what's after Google for us? Because Google's working great. We have this one up and running. What's the next thing going to be for us? And so at that point, he just started testing different platforms for us for organic. And he took his SEO and leveraged that into a YouTube channel that now has over 200,000 subscribers. We didn't know it was going to work that way. We tried Pinterest, we tried Facebook, we tried Twitter, but you try all those different things until you find the next one that works. And now what's the next one that's going to work from an organic standpoint? And how can we add that to the mix? Because when you are the preeminent expert in a niche, there should be ways to generate seven figures if it's a niche that's, a viable one for multiple different experts.
If you want to build a legitimate, profitable online business without shiny objects, without the hypey gimmicks, and without the stress and overwhelm, if you want to make more money without having to be present online all day, every day, pumping out content that nobody sees and hustling DMs to generate leads and sales, then this is the place for you. Welcome to the Digital Trailblazer Podcast, your online business university, where you'll learn how ordinary people start from ground zero with no influence, no email list or audience to sell to, and no business or marketing experience, and go from working 9-to-5 jobs to building successful 6- and 7-figure online businesses and all the steps in between. Learn the strategies that worked and what didn't. Learn the mistakes that they made and how to avoid them, and then learn their plans for scaling their businesses and taking things to the next level. All so that you can build your business faster and easier and make more money without sacrificing the things that are important to you in your life. I'm your host, Leah Ray Getz, and with me is my husband, Todd. Now, let's get to it with today's guest. Welcome, Digital Trailblazers. I'm super excited to have with us Chase Neely. He's been in the industry for 10 plus years, very long time. And there's one thing that we'll always see is the changes that are coming, right? Nothing ever stays the same. And before we got into this, we were even chatting about it. So what we want to really dive into today is not rehashing all the stuff we've heard before, but what is currently working today? What is he seeing with his clients and with his agency that are getting the best results? So we are super excited to have you with us, Chase. Welcome.
Well, thank you. And thanks for having me. I'm super excited to be with you guys.
So before we get into, the nitty gritties of details and stuff for what's working now, let's back up this train a little bit and talk about how did you get started in the space?
Yeah, it's really interesting. I was answering this a few weeks ago, and I realized that I have been marketing since I was about 8 years old. My dad ran a lumber company, and he tasked me with creating a radio ad as an 8-year-old. Yeah. And so I don't know, at that point, you just try to figure out what works. And I've been trying to figure out what works ever since then, both with publishing companies. So I worked with HarperCollins in college. And then after that at an author management company, and today with Leverage Brands. It's been about thought leaders and about communicating their message to the furthest extent possible online.
So this business is 10-ish years?
Yeah, so my co-founder and I have been in business together about 10 years. Leverage has been for 6 years of that. We established in 2018 after a previous company where we worked together.
So let's really dive deep into what do you see working now? And then and you as an agency, also you as working with your clients and seeing through your client what your clients are experiencing. What do you see some of the shifts and the ebbs that are happening in the industry right now?
Yeah, it's really been a fascinating time, hasn't it? With this advent of AI, I think that I say advent, it's here. There's no advent. It has come. We are in it, and it's a new era. And it's a new era from a digital marketing standpoint, not because of a content disruption as much as a traffic one for us. We've seen just a dramatic decrease in search volume overall. And so for us, when your organic search term that you're, ranking highly for goes from 150,000 searches a month to 30,000 searches a month, you look around and you say, okay, well, now what? Now what are we going to do? And it's a combination of, number one, we have to service the people who have been with us for a long time. We have to be that person who they can go to for any question that they have within the niche that we're in for that client. And so our clients are generally experts in a niche. They build an info product business and we help them do that. Okay, now how can we kind of expand that info product business to just have everything that client may need in the niche to where we're that answer? And we borrow that from Jay Abraham's strategy of preeminence, which is, he's a genius. So sure, steal from geniuses, right? And so that's one thing. The other thing is, because this organic search volume has just cratered for us, where are we going to get traffic now? And we gotta have people who are paid experts. We have to have people who are social media experts. We got to get organic from different places. We have to get paid from different places, but we have to become omni-channel. And when you become omni-channel, you're not relying on one channel to drive the traffic. You can pull whatever lever you need to get the traffic you need to continue to run the business you have.
That's important. Now let's kind of break this down because it just kind of gets my brain thinking. So obviously AI over the last year is blown up and people are doing all kinds of stuff for it. And more recently, it's been Google is using Gemini or whatever. So they don't even show your websites until they answer the question, right? So it makes me think about search engine SEO and people who are driving traffic through that. Because when I think about how I use Google, right? Either I want a super short answer, when was such and such born or how old is whatever, right? With that kind of that Gemini answers just fine, right? Or I want something more in depth and I want to really understand it. And so I feel, I don't know, if people use it like me, it's either going to be long in-depth articles where you really want to get into the meat of a content of a topic, or video, right? Because Gemini is not replacing video, right? So your YouTube videos that are ranking in Google, I could see those keeping their relevance, even with all the AI stuff going on and expanding. What do you think?
Yeah, I think you're right about that. You got to think back. Whenever something like this comes up in any digital marketing context, you have to go backward toward not just frameworks, but people. You have to start focusing again on individual people. If I know that's the way that Leah is using Google, then how can I interface with her to make sure that my content's the most relevant for what she's looking for? And then, is she a visual learner? Is she a audio learner? Is she going to be more of a tactile learner? How is that going to, how can I interact with her in the best possible way so that I am providing the things that she needs? And I think that it was so easy for a long time to think marketing funnel numbers. Now you got to think marketing funnel people. You got to, for each individual person. So with my team, I'm challenging them to know the people who are buying our courses. Who is that person? Do you know who the last person to buy one of our evergreen courses is? And I'll lead a meeting with that. And the answer, unfortunately, was no. And it was just because we were so focused on lead number, conversion rate, whatever it was, versus how are we going to serve that person? And you got to go back to how people learn. You got to go back to frameworks of how people trust you, how you build that relationship. And it in a lot of ways, Lee, I feel like it's making us almost more human in marketing.
Yeah, I think that's something that we're seeing and feeling as well, is that with all of the AI going everywhere, the human connection is getting more and more important, because AI can do a lot of cool, crazy, automated stuff, right? And so we're all about automation. We're all about systems and leverage, but it's getting more and more important to sprinkle in the little personalized touches and the things that make a really big difference, so you stand out, so that you're not like everyone else who's creating their copy off of Chat GPT and all of the other stuff that's being thrown out there. So I totally agree. The personalized, that humanness, the personalized touch is getting more and more important as AI grows and becomes preeminent in the space.
Yeah, and one more thing toward that end. I don't know if you're like me. We have done many entrepreneurial things along the way. This is the third company that I will say that I've started. There's other companies, but we don't need to talk about them, right? How do you start a company? You don't start with scale. You start with product market fit. You start with understanding the needs of the customer and meeting the needs. We're back to that point. Just because there's been a paradigm shift, you're back to that point, and you have to almost build your business again based on what the new paradigm is. And that's what we're trying to do.
So, do you have any client stories or numbers or data as you've built and grown this, and now you're really making this shift to more human stuff versus numbers?
Yeah, I think we're trying to understand that still. We're in the process of testing, iterating. But one thing we're doing this week, so it's super relevant to today. We're running basically a 3 email launch sequence. We had been running for a long time, Ramit Sethi's breakthrough launch formula. If you want to look at it, I think it works really well. But there's like a 3-week launch formula where you do pre-launch content. It's almost like a Jeff Walker redo, more or less. The webinar week, and then you do the launch week. Well, we have seen more conversions on this 3 email sequence than we saw in our last 3-week launch sequence.
Seriously?
Conversions. Yeah. And the question is, well, why? Number one, and there's a lot of different things that it could be. Maybe it's the price point. Maybe it's the product. Maybe, we haven't launched this particular product in a while. But the question becomes to me, well, do we have to do the 3-week launch sequence anymore? Or do people want that answer quickly based on what they already know about our brand and how we're interfacing with them and meeting their needs? So we're going to, continue down that path and see what effort's going to lead to the results there. And then number 2, just really trying to listen to customers as we're creating products, because we want to know that a majority of our customers want that before we create anything, versus what we thought, in our preeminent knowledge or our gut instinct, this is what customers need. We're going to go back to the customer and make sure that we're providing what they need today. To that end, we did an affiliate launch last week with a guy. We work with Jerry Jenkins, who teaches writers how to write online. And so he doesn't do AI. Jerry is 70-something years old. You can fact check me on that. But anyway, he is not the one to teach AI today. His audience needs to know about what the AI world is going to mean for writers. And so we bring in somebody like Joseph Michael at Learn Scrivener Fast, who has an AI for Authors course, and we put him in front of our audience. We need to be that all-inclusive solution. And so we're going to find the best resource and we're going to put it in front of our audience too.
Yeah. So I want to go back. I'm going to circle back a little bit to that 3 email sequence. Everyone's thinking, well, what's in those emails?
You would love for it to be something special.
Right.
It's really not. Yeah. It's just a product that we hadn't launched in a while. So a lot of our list probably hasn't heard about it, versus a product that we would launch quarterly. Number 2, we made it a good deal. So we don't generally use discounts. We're using a discount here. And then number 3, it really aligns. It's a really aligned product. And so I don't know that the copy is anything extraordinarily unique. I love our copywriter. She does an excellent job. And I think even she would say, yeah, I threw these together fairly quickly, versus the 3-week launch sequence from before, where we're going through it fine tooth comb. And what I'm trying to determine, Leah, is how do we utilize our team for the best effort for the best results? And so if I can do a 3 email launch sequence, I can do one of those a month. I can't do a 3-week launch sequence once a month, probably, for each individual brand. That would just lead to list fatigue and spammy domains and everything else. So I want to make sure that we're yielding the best results for the brand and for our team to utilize it most effectively.
So I'm assuming they're pretty straightforward, blunt, to the point. Here's the link. Is it just link to a sales page?
Yeah.
Is there? Okay. There's video sales letter on the.
No, there's not even a video. It's just a short form sales page. We generally have seen that long form sales pages perform better. It's not a secret sauce. It's just trying new things and seeing what works. And you know this more than most people. You don't know what's going to work. And so you just have to keep trying new things and see what's going to yield results.
Yeah. And I think this is something that I think our guts tell us in the TikTok Reels consuming content space. People's attention spans have gotten smaller.
That's right.
They've gotten shorter. Like if they're going to research something, they'll research it. But for the little things, the emails or whatever, I found myself just really slimming down my regular emails, short and sweet and to the point, so that I'm because I know how I read email. Like, I think about what I'm going to actually consume and how I used to read these big old emails. And now I'm like, yeah, I don't have time for that. Like, all right, link. Okay, if I want it, I'm going to click it. If not, I'm moving.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
Like, boom, boom, boom. So,
and I've been reading, who else I've been following recently, and not to just give you all these different people to follow, and don't follow me. I just follow a bunch of other people and kind of synthesize, right? Joel Irway is doing some great things with high ticket offers, right? But one thing he talks about in there is demand triggers. And so the other thing that we're doing is we're saying, okay, there's one call to action, which is best practice, right? But we're going to hit you from a lot of different demand triggers. So we're not going to just push one benefit in an email. Instead, we're going to give you basically all the benefits in each email so that you can just pick up on whichever one is your thing. Is it legacy? Is it honed writing craft? Is it how to use it? Whatever it is, we're going to just give you all of those things, and you get to determine if you're going to click or not. But we're going to give it to you short and to the point, benefit focused, but toward that demand trigger.
So small sales page. I like it. I think some people might be getting a little excited to do some split testing. Have you tried any like split testing on like a small, like a short sales page versus the traditional long one recently?
We have. I think the last like full-on test we did for that was last year. And this will be the foundation of a test. And so we'll take this promotion that we're running and we'll run it with a different product and see if we get the same result. We'll run it with a different product with a longer sales page and see if we get the same result. So, this is the foundation of kind of a hypothesis that we basically threw out and said, what would the results be if we just kind of treated it less as launches and more as promotions?
Okay. Now, some people might be thinking, all right, they're getting really excited about just running some email promotions to their list and making some new sales. Do you have like a frequency for promotion, if you will, to your email list? Like when's too much, when's not enough? Like how often should you have, because everyone knows to give value. We get that part. Like give them value, give them content. But I think people are timid when it comes to either they're out there hitting it hard, like sell it, and people don't like them, or they're only giving value and never really selling. So have you found a sweet spot?
We generally try to do, when we think about 4 pieces of content, 1 a week, generally, right? We try to do 1 that's promotion-based and 3 that are value-based. I think generally speaking, it's a good rule of thumb. And I was talking to my business partner the other day and I said, hey, we've been chasing leads, we've been chasing traffic, but really, would you be okay if we didn't get more leads or traffic and it kind of stayed the same, but we had more sales? And he said, yes. I said, well, to sell more, we're going to have to sell more. Yeah. And so what we're trying to do now is just segment based on interest. So we're not hitting people with irrelevant sales. That's the big thing. We want to hit you with a sale that meets you where you are while still providing value to the list at large. I don't know, Leah, and I haven't told my team yet about this, so don't tell them this. Give me a chance to tell them. And everybody keep my secret, okay? I don't know that we'll do a big launch again for the rest of the year. I don't know that we will. I think we might do segmented launches to lists where we know their interests and we're going to put a product in front of them on a monthly basis. But I don't know that we'll do a big list sale again this year.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, big launches and I mean, all of that is a ton of work.
It's a ton of work.
It's a ton of work. So if it's working well without doing it, well, heck yeah, let's make that adjustment for sure. So for those who don't understand what segmenting a list is, or how, if they have a list and they maybe get the term now, how to actually start segmenting, can you kind of break that down for them?
So what we're trying to do is segment it in a couple of different ways. Number one, demographically. And you think about not just physical demographics, gender, age, whatever else, job title, but also psychological demographics. So what pain point are you experiencing today, and how can we help you with that pain point? This is, again, we're serving individuals. Even if you have thousands of people opting into your email list every month, you got to think of it as, okay, Joe Schmo just opted in, but so did Betsy Boss. And so we got to get both of those people, and we have to meet them where they are with what they're telling us as they're coming in. And so we talk about those demographics, and you can do that through a survey, but you also have to look at action-based segmenting. What are they clicking on? What are they showing interest in? What's actually eliciting action from them? And so we try to segment in both regards so that we have the most information possible. If you're just starting and you have to choose between those two, I would start with action-based segmenting. If you send an email to your list about a particular topic, and even if it's a blog email or whatever, a promotion for a blog, if they click on that, that's valuable information because you can assume one of a couple things. Number one, that it's a bot click and you should ignore it altogether. It's an insider baseball joke. Number two, they're going to spend some time on a page about that topic. And so then you can start digging in. Why are they interested in that topic, and how can I meet them with a conversion opportunity on that topic with what I have or what I could build?
So let's take a what would be a topic that you would have segmented out for your list?
So like for us, let's say we do a blog on personal branding.
Okay.
If you click that blog, how can we meet you where you are on that personal branding? Could we create a short webinar that we send you to that has an application link to work with us? That would be an option. Could we give you a PDF about building your personal brand, or even sell you a small ebook about that? Or could I give you access to our book about building a personal brand for an author? Yeah, any of those things, but I'm going to try to meet you with what you've shown interest in versus just doing a list-wide promotion about a certain thing.
Are you blasting the list with a topic before you want to do a segment to get them to segment themselves? And now you're saying, okay, so see our email autoresponder, the Tuesday email, everyone who clicked, I'm now going to send these, then, schedule out those? Or are you actually like creating data points? So like tags essentially or something in your systems to say, these are now they've got like the branding interest tag, and forever now I can batch them with my branding type offers.
I think that's the temptation, is to go straight to the tagging and system solution. I would suggest initially doing a test to make sure you have product market fit with what they've clicked on. So if they're clicking on something and they've shown interest and you want to sell them something, try that first, because if you don't have the product that's fitting the segmentation, it doesn't matter anyway if you have that segment. I have a ton of those tags that we've just deleted from a CRM. So just be sure that you have product market fit, validate first, and then scale with that automatic. And you could add it to your onboarding sequence or whatever else where they click on that. And once you have a validated product offer, you send them that product offer as part of that onboarding.
Now, you also mentioned something about being omnipresent. So this is something that people talk about on and off. So there's temptation, right? Especially depending on where you are in your journey. So if you're brand new, you haven't really made sales, or you're not at 10,000 a month, like I would argue that going everywhere is going to cause a lot of problems.
Yeah.
Right. And would not be advisable. That simplifying one, maybe two strategies tops is your jam. So like at what stage do you feel like being omnipresent is relevant, and what does that typically look like for folks?
So I think that as you're thinking about omnichannel, I love omnipresence because, our God is omnipresent. Let's be like him. Let's be everywhere for all people, right? But for the omnichannel approach, I would suggest if you're starting out, what you need to do is validate channels. And so I would have a platform test. Do paid ads, run them for 90 days, 6 months. Observe, is that driving traffic? Likely, if you have somebody great working for you, yes, it's driving traffic. Is it driving conversions? Is it driving business? Kind of evaluate that, and then maybe move to the next paid channel if it's not. If it is, double down on it. And when you start to see that law of diminishing returns kick in, that's when you start to validate new channels. So run the play until it stops working, right? Same thing with organic channels. If you're on every social media channel just starting out, you're going to wear yourself out, and it's going to be worth nothing to you. So validate the channel, get it up and humming and working. And then as you see the law of diminishing returns, kick it into the next one. I just remember having a conversation, Leo, with our SEO guy. It must have been 2019. It was definitely pre-COVID. And I was saying, okay, what's after Google for us? Because Google's working great. We have this one up and running. What's the next thing going to be for us? He said, well, Google's not going away. It's like, great. What's the next thing? What do we need next? And so at that point, he just started testing different platforms for us for organic. And he took I'll go back to Jerry Jenkins as an example. He took his SEO and leveraged that into a YouTube channel that now has over 200,000 subscribers. We didn't know it was going to work that way. We tried Pinterest, we tried Facebook, we tried Twitter, we tried X, whatever it was at the time. I think it was Twitter at the time. It's X now, I know. But, you try all those different things until you find the next one that works. And now what's the next one that's going to work from an organic standpoint? And how can we add that to the mix? But yeah, to your point, you don't want to be everywhere at once at first. Validate a channel, build it, let it hum, and then validate and build the next one. You just can't be single channel dependent anymore. That's what I mean by that.
Yeah, absolutely. And honestly, that's just sort of like, I think that should bring security and comfort to business owners that, if something bad happens on Facebook or something bad happens to you on YouTube, you've got additional stuff going on to be able to pivot and to adjust. Your mortgage can still get paid this month.
That's right.
That's really important things. No, that's awesome. So with all of this that you've been doing for yourself, which you've been doing for your clients, like what have you seen it produce? Like what have you been able to build? Brag on yourself, I guess, for a second.
Well, the great thing is I have a great team and I get to work with great people, with great clients. And so, we've driven millions of dollars in sales for multiple different brands. And that's not a reflection on me. I didn't make the content. I may have packaged it, but they're the content creators. I'm just putting it in front of the right people. And so that is the goal, is to be in that 7-figure realm every year, and to continue to grow in that realm each year. And we've achieved that sometimes, and sometimes we haven't achieved it, but we want to keep passing that mark, because when you are the preeminent expert in a niche, there should be ways to generate 7 figures. If it's a niche that's, a viable one for multiple different experts. And so that's our goal. We want to build those 7-figure personal brands, if we can, in those different niches. And we've been able to do that over the past 6 years at Leverage, and even before that, at the previous company together. And so we're thrilled to continue to working with the people that we are. And at the end of the day, if there's no money, there's no mission, right? And the thought leaders that we're working with, they have something they want to share with the world. And we use the money that we earn alongside them to allow them to do that to a bigger scale.
I'm just curious, since you do have kind of a wide variety of thought leaders and stuff that you're working with, are you seeing with the ebbs and flows in the marketplace, any specific industries or niches that seem to be having, are doing great or struggling, or what are you kind of seeing at the bigger picture?
I think if you're in a small niche anyway, you're going to feel constriction. And so the people in the smaller niche are going to try to niche up a little bit. If you're in a general market niche, you're going to feel constriction because there's more people out there. So you're going to have to niche down. But there's going to be basically viability in the niches that aren't super, super specific, but specific enough to have an audience where your message can cut through. And that's what in our process, we're always going to talk about core audience. What is the core audience that you're speaking to? And how can you, again, if we're teaching writing craft, that's a very specific niche. So we might have to niche up to publishing and marketing and kind of give that whole breadth of approach to selling books. But what we don't want to do is start becoming something that our audience doesn't recognize, because we want to be trusted for the relationships we built to this point.
Okay. So can you give some more examples just so people can really wrap their heads around what you're saying there for someone that might be an example of a niche that might be a little too constrictive and they need to go broader, what that would look like, and vice versa?
Yeah, I'll talk to you about ourselves. So at Leverage Brands, we work with thought leaders, and we think about, okay, well, is that very specific? Yes, that's a very specific niche of the people that we're working with. And so we're trying to now interface with thought leaders along the business journey So are you just starting out? Well, we need to have an option for you. Are you kind of in that stagnation phase and you're not sure where to go next? We got to have a solution for you there too. Are you ready to sell? How do you sell a thought leader business? That's a very interesting question to have to answer. And so we're having those conversations as well. And we'll likely out of this, Leah, end up building a fund of sorts where we're acquiring thought leader businesses. I see that coming for us. Because we want to steward those messages well. That's what we do. We want to continue to do that. And to do it with assets we own would be an incredible blessing for us.
Just on the bigger picture, what are you finding or what do you advise for someone who they've got a level of expertise, but they have built no brand, they've got nothing going on yet. They want to be a thought leader. What do you feel like what do you advise for those beginning steps?
So my question to you is, how serious are you about this? And I will talk directly to the audience for a minute, Leah. How serious are you about this? Because if you're starting a business and you have to think of it as a business, your brand is not a hobby. It's a burning message that's inside of you that you want to share. Then you got to give it the same attention that you would give starting a business. And for us, it starts with the fundamentals. That's the 3 core things. You got to have your core message. That would be the equivalent of a business mission statement. Except that your core message is going to be audience focused. So what is your core message? What is the benefit that they can expect to receive from you that alleviates the pain they're experiencing? That's number 1. Number 2, you got to know your core audience. If you don't know who your core audience is and you don't know exactly who you're talking to, you're not going to cut through the noise. There's too much noise out there. Even if you're an expert, there's too much noise. And number 3, you got to have your core values. What are you willing to do? Who are you willing to become to reach the goals you want to reach? Those are going to be your guardrails that determine your tactics. And so that's how we do it. We align with our core values, we identify our core customer, and then we determine our core message or develop our core message. And that aid package is what we would offer you to go out into the world to start that business. But you got to start with the fundamentals. And then from that solid core, you build.
Okay, Chase. So what do you feel like is really important for folks to really understand?
It is the Wild West right now. We don't know what's coming down the road. We don't know the impact of whatever Elon tweeted today about a Tesla phone that's connected to Starlink internet and you get Twitter Premium or X Premium for free. I don't know if you saw that, but this is insane. We are in an insane, and he's building the biggest AI company in the world, right? He's got a $6 billion Series B. We don't know what's coming down the road. And the way that you adapt, the way that you become anti-fragile, which is a great book, love that book, but the way that you become anti-fragile is to have a framework to fall back on that allows you to plan and adapt and strategize based on what's coming, no matter what it is.
Yeah, I think it's important for folks to understand that the principles are never going to change. Like the principles are the principles. They're the foundation for all of this stuff, but everything else beyond the principles can change. And if you want to be in this long term, you have to be nimble. You have to be able to adjust. If you look at the people who've been here for 10, 20 years in this space, they know how to adapt, right? Things change all the time, and they're not going to sit there and pout that some strategy isn't working anymore. They're going to brainstorm. They're going to come up with ideas based on those same core principles, and then they're going to start testing and adjusting and tweaking and going from there.
It's exactly right. It's exactly right. And that's who we have to become, but only if you want to have a business.
Yeah, true. Absolutely. So if people want to check you out more, what you and your agency are doing, where should they head?
Yeah, if y'all will go to leveragebrands.co, it's not .com, .co/pod. That's where we are. And I have opened some time on my calendar just to have 30-minute consults. I'd love to hear what you're doing. I'd love to hear how we can help, and really just start a conversation about all of these things. It's going to be changing even from the time you hear this episode to when we had the conversation. And so I want to open up some time and we'll talk about what's working today.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being with us, Chase. I appreciate you.
Thanks for having me.
You've been listening to the Digital Trailblazer podcast. For show notes and information about today's guest, head to digitaltrailblazer.com. Now, if you love this episode, if you got some value, make sure you leave us a review and subscribe. And be sure to share this episode with anyone you know who could use help to build their business. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.